Today we're talking about the best boots for electricians. Now, this is something that obviously is near and dear to my heart. I've been an electrician for over 20 years, and it's something that I've made a lot of mistakes doing, and I want to make sure that I pass on that information to you so that you don't repeat my mistakes. One of the biggest mistakes that I made throughout my career was choosing boots based on how they looked. And you know what? That's not completely invalid, because you have to have boots that you actually like wearing and go, hey, those look pretty cool. So the problem comes when you choose a boot like this with a lugged sole on it, but you're gonna be working on concrete all day. Now let's start with what's probably the most boring, but one of the most important parts of boots, and that's safety. Since we're talking about electricians here, this is where it gets kind of sticky, because I've worked in so many different conditions that using one boot for all of them is nearly impossible. But I can give you a good place to start for your current conditions. A lot of people have this conception that you cannot wear steel toe boots as an electrician. That's actually false. You can. OSHA states that steel toe shoes are not generally considered hazardous for electrical tradesmen as long as the conductive part is not exposed or touching the foot. But that being said, I never really liked steel toe boots to begin with. Number one, they get cold fast, and that sucks. Number two, they're heavy. So if I can get the same rating for safety out of a composite toe boot, then that's what I'm gonna do. And don't forget that there is a big difference between electrical hazard boots and ESD boots. ESD boots are constructed with electrostatic dissipative materials, which help kind of bleed off electrostatic. Totally different thing from EH boots, so just make sure you're getting the right rating. Next is your sole. I'm gonna break this down into two very general groups. If you're working on finished concrete, hard floors, go with a wedge sole. That's what you're gonna want. It offers a lot of support and pressure across the foot, and it's gonna be just more comfortable. If you're working in dirt, outside, places that you need traction, well, this isn't gonna give it to you, and you're gonna want something like a lugged sole. Number four, waterproofing only if you need it. This is something that people, I hate to see it, because oftentimes this is right on the front of the box, and you look at it and you go, you know what, maybe waterproofing isn't a bad thing to have. That's certainly the way that I thought for a long time. But the problem is that waterproofing tends to work the opposite way too. It traps the moisture inside your boot. These boots just don't dry out as fast. They tend to run hotter. And, you know, for most of us, we don't need it. If you're working outside and you need true waterproof boots, then get something specifically made for that. And my fifth and final thing is making sure that the boots are comfortable enough that they'll last you a long shift. Here is where most people have the wrong idea about comfort, because most people look at work boots and they try to equate them to something like an athletic shoe with a lot of foam in it. That's not the same. Athletic shoes are meant for one thing. Work boots are meant for a totally different thing. Squishy foam beneath your foot might sound like a great idea, but it tends to compress and it takes a while for it to rebound. So oftentimes you need to either have boots that you are rotating through so that they have a full chance to rebound, but throughout a 10-hour day, they're gonna compress down to where you're really not even feeling that foam at all. So squishy boots, number one, they don't have the longevity. They also don't offer you the stability that you're probably going to want. That's one of the reasons that I prefer a full leather lining, is that supportive feel. But maybe if you're somebody who wants a little bit more give in your boots, well, then I would suggest adding something like this. Superfeet is just a brand that I had around. I like them a lot. I've been using them for a long time. They're not a sponsor or anything, but they make specific work insoles for whatever it is that you're dealing with. I think they even make EH rated ones. These are the ESD insoles, so make sure that you're using the right insole for the right boot. But if you want something that gives you a little bit more support, comfort, well, you can get insoles, and the nice thing about those is that you can change them out rather than changing the whole boot. So obviously there's tons of boots to pick from, and I'm gonna give you my top picks from each category right after we talk about today's sponsor, which is Pesty. I'll be honest, pest control is one of those homeowner things I never really wanted to pay somebody else to do. But I also don't want troublesome bugs to think that they live here now. And that's where Pesty can help you out. They send you pro-grade pest control products, the kinds used by professionals, but set up so you can apply it yourself at home. Pesty says that their treatments work on over 100 common household pests, and the whole thing is customized to your location, climate, and the bugs that you're actually dealing with. The kit shows up with everything you need, including their rechargeable electric sprayer, and the application takes about 10 minutes. Put on the included gloves, wear long sleeves, long pants, and closed-toed shoes, mix it up outside, and follow the instructions. It's that easy. What I like is that it takes the mystery out of it. You know, you're not guessing what to buy at the hardware store, and you're not signing some long pest control contract. Pesty says it's about a quarter of the cost of traditional pest control with no contracts and the ability to cancel anytime. They also send the right amount for the job and give instructions to help minimize impact on pollinators like honeybees, which matters because I want bugs outside doing bug things. I just don't want them in my house. So if you want a simpler way to keep pests under control without paying for a full pest control service, scan the code or click the link in the description below to get an extra 10% off your first order. Thank you so much to Pesty for sponsoring this video. Now, my first pick is not going to be a boot that I would suggest for just any old buddy, okay? These are expensive. These are the premium heavy-duty version, and that is the White's Longliner. Now, the Longliner is built as an electrical hazard lineman boot, which is much more than most electricians need. It has a composite safety toe, water-resistant leather, stitch-down construction, reinforced climbing patch, leather midsole and shank, Kevlar upper and sole stitching, and it's rebuildable and resolable. This is a serious work boot. Now, this is not a pair of Longliners right here. This is a White's smoke jumper, but still same company, same overall look. And they are heavy, they're tall, they're expensive. Wearing something like this to work is basically the same as driving an F350 dually to work. Yeah, it's very capable, it'll last forever, it'll tow almost anything. I don't know why you want your boots to tow something, but you get my idea. They're super duper heavy duty, but they come with all of the downsides to having something that's that heavy duty on your feet. Now, for most electricians, the Wing Traction Tred Lite 2440 is kind of like the more realistic pick. This gives you a wedge-style sole, waterproofing, non-metallic safety toe, EH rating, slip resistance, and a more modern feel than a traditional heavy leather boot, which is what a lot of people want. This is the kind of boot that's going to do really well splitting its time between unfinished and finished spaces. This is going to be a pretty good inside wireman type of boot. Number 3 is the Thorogood American Heritage Mock Toe boot. This is really kind of like the classic electrician boot, and at least in my area of New England, I see more Thorogood mock toes than any other type of boot. This has the wedge sole, the mock toe, it has durable leather, it's comfortable on concrete, it's a no-brainer. Now, the downside of this guy is that the wedge sole is really not ideal for snow, mud, or outdoor work. Matter of fact, if you're working in the snow and you're wearing one of these from your truck to the job site, you're probably gonna be slipping and sliding around on the snow or ice. It's not really good for that application. But for most commercial electrical work on concrete, this boot makes a lot of sense, and there's a reason you see it so much. If you're mostly indoors doing maintenance or facilities, maybe low voltage, data work, that kind of lighter duty electrical, well then take a look at the Keen Utility Vista Energy Mid-Carbon Toe. Holy crap, what a name. This is not a heavy leather job site tank of a boot, which is what I like, and I understand that a lot of people want something a little bit different, a little bit lighter. This is more of an athletic work boot with a carbon safety toe and EH rating. And the big advantage with that is weight and comfort. A lot of people find these much more comfortable having a lighter boot on your feet. At the end of the day, you definitely notice a difference. And if you're walking on concrete all day and you don't want a giant boot, this could be a lot easier to live with. Now, the big downside with these is durability in that really hard work. So if you're kicking pipe or walking on rebar or working in mud or beating the hell out of your boots otherwise, I would go with something a little bit heavier duty. But for indoor electrical work, this could be a great fit. Now, my value pick is gonna be the Wolverine I-90 DuraShocks CarbonMAX. I have a pair of these and they're pretty good. They're waterproof, so like I mentioned, they tend to hold on to sweat, but you know, if you had to have one boot that was relatively affordable and still decent, this isn't a bad option. I would still buy a boot dryer and put them on there every single night just to make sure they don't get funky. But with this thing, you get waterproofing, composite toe protection, EH rating, wedge style comfort, and a Goodyear welt construction without jumping into a really high-priced boot. These boots make a lot of sense for apprentices, younger tradesmen, or maybe somebody who's just trying to keep the price reasonable, or if you're somebody who wants to be able to swap out between two different boots, and that's when I wear them. It's definitely not as refined as a Thorogood, a White's, or a Red Wing, but for the money, it really does check a lot of boxes. Now, this is kind of where I need your help. If you would please just share your favorite boot in the comment section below, that'll really help out people who may be watching this video and just getting into the trade. If you take away nothing else from this video, please just remember this. Buy boots for the work that you're currently doing. So if you're jumping in and out of ditches all day, running conduit in trenches, that kind of thing, this kind of boot is not going to offer you the traction that you want, and it's going to fight you every step of the way. This is better for inside concrete work. If you're trimming out offices all day, well, then this isn't going to be a great boot either. This is going to track in mud and all kinds of crap into finished spaces. It's really hard to kneel down with. It's just too much boot for the application. So buying the right boot for the application that you are using it in is really key. Most of the time, we pick the coolest looking boot. I am certainly guilty of that myself. But picking the right tool for the right job is essential, and it's really going to help you at the end of the day. I promise you that. I'll put links for all the boots that I mentioned in the description below, and don't forget, if you're not in your mattress, you're in your boots. So those are definitely places that you don't want to skimp. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.